We're good? All right. Welcome back to Sweet Science Boxing in Hawthorne, California. We are live with another episode of Beat the Count. And I'm a little bit at a loss for words, so I'm going to let Anthony introduce our guest today, which if you guys know anything about this show, I don't normally do that. So I'm going to defer. You go ahead.
Man,
you go ahead.
To the left of us, we have undefeated prospect Juan Barajas, 10-0, 7 KOs out of the high desert, Victorville, California. Juan, man, thank you for coming into the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, man. And you fought locally a number of times. I noticed checking out your record up here at OC, like at the hangar for Roy Engelbert and those cats.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fought there twice.
Awesome. And we will definitely get into your experience. And I know this is going to be a little bit of a switch for the show. We normally start off with, you know, all your background, your experience in boxing. But I would be doing a disservice, I think, if I didn't just straight off the top go right into Andy Ruiz, because I still can't believe what I saw. And I assume both of you gentlemen are aware of the upset that occurred last night.
Congratulations to the first Mexican heavyweight
First Mexican heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
Not just that, he is a unified world heavyweight champion. He has three of the big four alphabet belts. Andy Ruiz, right here, Southern California native.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us roll in similar circles. I know people who know Andy. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? Is that what happened last night? There was a fight in a Mexican.
There was a fight.
And a
There was
Mexican won?
There was a firefight.
Wait,
And I'm not talking about bantamweights or flyweights or none of that stuff. We're talking the World Heavyweight Championship, brother. Did you know that?
no,
Did you know it?
I had heard that, like the unified champ was fighting, but nobody was really caring about the fight or whatnot because he was just going to steamroll this Mexican.
As a matter of fact, not only did I heard that nobody cared about that fight, I actually heard on Showtime. If you guys watch the Deontay Wilder fight, you watch Deontay Wilder versus Dominic Breazeale.
Yeah.
I want to comment on this real quick because if you guys remember in that post-fight interview, Jim Gray said to Deontay Wilder, nobody wants to see Dominic Breazeale and nobody wants to see this guy who Anthony Joshua is fighting next week. He didn't even call him by name.
Wow.
He just said nobody wants to see
correct.
this guy who Anthony Joshua is fighting next week. And what do you guys think that Jim Gray feels about that now?
Yeah, he's eating crow just like I am, bro.
Just like a lot of the boxing world. It's not just you, to be fair.
Here's the thing. Friday afternoon, I decided to go on to Facebook and I posted, I want to know who's actually picking Reese. Not, hey, I'm going for Reese.
I seen that.
He trains in my gym. Oh, he's my friend, and I hope a Mexican wins, or I hope this. No, who actually honestly believed that Reese was going to go in there and take care of Joshua? And I think there was one or two people. I know that this morning Nancy Rodriguez from the WBC had posted something from a newspaper in Mexico City where Mauricio Suleiman had picked Anthony Reese to win. And I think there was only like one other guy that actually had enough balls to come out and say, I'm picking Reese. Reese is going to win, and basically gave me his explanation why. But besides that, I know there was a lot of people rooting for him, but people that were actually thought he would take it.
I do want to make that distinction because a lot of times people come on here and they ask me who I'm going to pick. And I've always said there's a difference between who I want to win and who I think will win. So a very recent version of that, you asked me about Mikey and Errol Spence. And I explained there's a difference. I would like for Mikey to win. I think it's a great story. It's good for boxing, but I don't think it will happen. I think Errol will win. And this is sort of where I was at with this fight. There's a difference between who I wanted to win and who I thought would win. And I thought Anthony Joshua, and I was actually in the minority because of the close fight with Joseph Parker and because he experienced some moments of weakness against Povetkin. I actually thought that it was going to go to a unanimous decision for Anthony Joshua. And even that, I think, would have received criticism, saying that Andy Ruiz would have got even out of the fight, right? Yeah. And but if you have any doubt about who I wanted to win, just look at my Facebook page, bro. Like,
like I said, even
I was rooting for him, bro.
I
was rooting for him.
I was saying earlier, Nancy Rodriguez had said, hey, Mauricio had picked him.
Nancy's online.
Yeah, and one other person on that line when I posted that thread said that's it. It was only two people. And like you said, a lot of people want somebody to win, but to think that he was able to go out there and do it was just absolutely bananas last night to watch that. I had never seen anything like that in my life. Yeah, I watched the Tyson Douglas fight, but just the action, just him getting dropped in that third round and getting up to knock down Joshua 2 more times after Joshua had cracked him with that overhand right after he had got up. It was amazing. I'm still in shock. I'm in shock.
I think we all are, man.
Oh, yes.
Are you feeling that shock? I'm feeling
big
it too.
time, yes.
I'm feeling it too. It's like and we haven't even gotten into the really tough questions about what is this going to do to the heavyweight division? How does this impact boxing in general? Like, for instance, Anthony Joshua has routinely been in everybody's top 10 pound-for-pound ranking. Mm-hmm. You look at ESPN, anybody. Anthony Joshua cracks the top 10, and I've always been very critical of that. And I want to know now, for instance, for all of you out there who had Anthony Joshua somewhere within your top 10, how does this impact your pound-for-pound ranking? Is Anthony Joshua still a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter?
No.
You know, is he still a top 3 heavyweight? But I see a lot of people now, and understandably so, the very first thing that particularly Deontay Wilder fans will come out and say is if he couldn't hang with Ruiz's power, that there's no way he could hang with Deontay Wilder. Is that a fair criticism?
No.
Tough, right?
No.
Yeah, it's tough.
Tough. That's tough.
Different styles make fights, brother.
Yeah, I agree.
Power or not, styles make fights. And Joshua was used to fighting taller opponents that will sit there and jab and slower opponents. Reese's hand speed was phenomenal last night. I mean, when Joshua would miss those big shots, Reese would hit him with 3 or 4 counter shots. I mean, his hands just that speed's phenomenal for a man that size.
Okay, and what about my first question? So if you considered Anthony Joshua a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter before, is he still a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter after losing to Andy Ruiz? No, just straight up no?
No,
he's
just
out?
straight up no. He's not a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter.
Okay, all right, here's another one. So this is another interesting topic. I'm going to throw another question at you. Who wins a rematch? So if there is a rematch clause obviously is part of this contract. So they go to a rematch now in the UK sometime in November, December, promoted by Eddie Hearn. It's on DAZN. Joshua in his element. Do you give Andy Ruiz, obviously he has a chance. I'm not going to say do you give him a chance, but who would you favor in a rematch between Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua?
Honestly, I don't think he takes the rematch. I don't think he exercises the clause in his first fight back. I think he's emotionally shook. I think he's mentally shook. And it's something that we had talked about last week on the show with Ronnie Rios, where you have to be in this mentally, and you have to be mentally prepared. And coming off such a big loss by somebody that hits as hard as Reese, I don't know if he's going to be mentally ready to jump right back in with that guy. And I can see him taking a tune-up before he exercises that clause.
You know what's interesting about that is even he, in the moment, when asked about exercising the rematch clause, kind of implied that the same names that he was chasing before losing, he's now still chasing. So, meaning his immediate goals are still Deontay Wilders of the world and the Tyson Furies of the world, despite the fact that he's lost his titles to Andy Ruiz. It actually sounds like Eddie Hearn is more interested in pursuing the rematch immediately than Anthony Joshua was, at least in the immediate aftermath. So, like, he may sit for a week on it, you know. Yeah. But at least in the immediate aftermath.
What do you think is going through the mind of Deontay Wilder right now for not taking?
He posted it on Twitter.
For not. I know what he posted, but
pull up his Twitter post right now.
For not taking those fights, for not taking that 3-fight deal with DAZN, for not getting the opportunity. He could have woken up this morning and had every single belt.
I can't comment on it because you know what? There's so much he said, she said, and who's accountable for it. And what it boils down to is if you're a Deontay Wilder fan, then you blame Anthony Joshua and his camp for the fact that they haven't fought. And if you are an Anthony Joshua fan, you blame Deontay Wilder and his camp for the fact that they haven't fought. That's really what it comes down to. So unless you have like a highly deep understanding of what Shelley Finkel and their negotiations have been like with Matchroom, I can't call it. All I know is it's a fight that I would like to see, and it hasn't happened, and that's disappointing. And the truth is, as a boxing fan, I don't know if I want to see it as much anymore. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Right? Yeah. It's not as interesting now.
Exactly.
It's not as interesting.
I think the whole hoopla about the two greatest heavyweights going at it, both undefeated, high KO records. Yeah. United States versus the United Kingdom, England versus USA. Let's do this. You know, I mean, it was like almost like a movie buildup, you know, almost like a Rocky IV type buildup. Like, hey, this is going to happen.
Rocky.
And now this shit ain't going to happen.
Which one was Drago?
Because now you had the Mexican Rocky that went in there and took care of business. Shit.
Dude, I mean, I don't know that it seems as interesting. And I also think that obviously some steam is out of it, right? Just some steam is out of it.
Okay.
I don't get me wrong. Hey, look, for those of you out here, before you get into criticizing me, if it was on pay-per-view, I'd still buy it. if the two fought, I'd still watch it. I'd be highly interested in it. I would go through all the things. So it really doesn't make a difference to me. I'm just saying from a momentum, a build-up standpoint, it seems to have just come to a halt a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
What is a win like this for you, for instance? You only fought 13 times in the amateur.
Right.
But you see kids in the gym. You're from Victorville. You know, you don't have out there in the high desert the best of the best, per se, like out here in Southern California when it comes to sparring, when it comes to these kids being out in the gym or whatnot. So what do you think this is going to do for those kids, man, that come in out of shape, that come in a little bit chunky, that want to train? How do you think it's going to affect these young kids now, seeing somebody like Andy Ruiz win the title?
I feel like it's going to excite the kids. It's pure motivational, for kids. Kids are they're gonna see this fight, and they're gonna be motivated. It's gonna give them dreams, give them hopes to chase their dreams.
And not to get away, because we will come back to this big fight between Ruiz and Joshua
throughout the whole thing. We're gonna be talking about it the whole time.
We're gonna be talking about it the whole time. But you, for instance, man, you only had 13 fights, right? 13 fights as an amateur.
Correct.
You've never fought a 6-round fight, and you get a call to go up against one of Mayweather Promotions' top guys, Linnell Bellows, in Memphis, Tennessee. So you take the call, man, and you come up with an upset victory yourself, man. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that fight and how it came about, man.
Man, this fight, well, the coach, gave me the opportunity for this fight, and I knew I was ready where I stood, and we knew for the 10-round level it was gonna be a big jump from 6 rounds to 10 rounds, but we knew with preparation, hard work, and dedication, anything's possible. And we went up there and we pulled out that upset, and the experience was really great. He's a good fighter, big up to Bellows,
And a little bit about Barajas for the fans that haven't seen him or haven't heard of Juan. Juan is a 6'4" super middleweight with an 80-inch reach. He's got the longest reach of any American super middleweight, and I think you're probably the tallest super middleweight, American super middleweight. I know that Zurdo is up there in height as well.
Yeah.
But man,
how tall are you, bro?
6'4".
6'4". Okay.
6'4" with an 80-inch reach, man. So his reach is only 2 inches shorter than Anthony Joshua's reach.
Not that made a difference.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, fighting a smaller fighter, man. Of course, we all know that Joshua, to me, I think his game plan should have been to come out with that jab and pop that jab to try to keep him on the outside.
Of course.
It didn't work, but I mean.
But this is boxing. You expect the unexpected.
This is what I was saying before the show started. This is what makes it great. If we could literally handpick the guy who's going to win every time, because we look at fights like Deontay Wilder and Dominic Breazeale, and we go, okay, yeah, clearly that's Wilder, right? So if we could look and choose that easily, it wouldn't be fun. Right? Yeah. Like, it wouldn't be fun all the time. The fact that someone like Andy Ruiz can come up here and make a statement, and a statement victory, it's not like he won a decision or something like that. Yeah. He put the champ down 4 times. After being down himself, he proved a lot about his character as a person. That's what makes everything so exciting. That's why we're fans, I think.
He took 2 of the biggest shots I've seen anybody take from Anthony Joshua last night. Like I said, he took that overhand right.
Yeah.
As soon as he got knocked down, and then I believe in the 4th or the 5th, he got caught with another massive overhand right, and he stayed on his feet, man. I mean, what a chin on that cat. I mean, it's just amazing.
A couple things I'm going to give a shout-out to Daniel, who jumped on. He said he wants Wilder versus Ruiz next because he feels that Wilder is the one true champion. They both fight for Al Heyman. I mean, it's something that could conceivably happen if Anthony Joshua decides not to exercise the rematch clause. It sounds like Eddie Hearn fully intends to do that. Deontay Wilder, of course, is booked. A few things that have been announced through the week, of course. Deontay Wilder, first the rematch with Luis Ortiz in the September timeframe, and then apparently a contract with Tyson Fury in Q1 of 2020. So Deontay Wilder's booked for the next couple fights, which means Andy's going to have to get his opponent somewhere else for the time being.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
there are other PBC fighters. Konaki is one of them, who's up there,
and he's actually going to be fighting next month against Chris Arreola. So he's booked as well.
Yeah, but that's only next month. Like, those guys can conceivably go back at November, December time frame and mix it up sometime in the future if Anthony Joshua decides not to exercise that clause, which I've seen a number of people say they feel like mentally he might not he might not be into that fight, including you.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see him jumping back in the ring with Reese again right away. You know, I think he takes another tune-up. I mean, he needs to be prepared. You know, maybe get a big knockout victory and, you know, give himself a little bit of self-confidence before stepping back in the ring with Reese.
So who would that tune-up be, though? Who is that? Because, I mean, check out the guys who are out there. It's not really a tune-up if you're fighting Dillian White. You know, he's already beat, you know, the Takams and the Joseph Parkers of the world. So who's the tune-up?
Hughie Fury?
Huey Fury?
I don't know.
David Price?
David Price, right. He knocks Price out.
One of those.
Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, that would be, I don't know. I don't know who I'd like to see him in against next. It's weird. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on with the heavyweights now.
Yeah.
And
Where's
Reese,
Andy Ruiz in the top heavyweights now? Is he number one because he beat Anthony Joshua? Is he?
I don't believe he's the top heavyweight.
So who's the top heavyweight?
I still believe Fury, Tyson Fury's the top heavyweight. Then Wilder now, and then
Fair enough.
And then Reese at 3. You know, of course Fury's still the lineal champion until somebody actually beats him. Then Wilder, then now Reese.
Yeah, we got a bunch of comments up here. Daniel's getting on. He thinks AJ was overrated and Ruiz was underrated. So I definitely can get on board with the Ruiz is underrated thing. I think us being natives of Southern California and Andy being someone who's active in this area, perhaps we're a little bit more aware of his accomplishments and some of what he's done, because you might go to a gym and see him sparring down here at Legends, or you might see him working out with different people. So I think our perspective on it is different than if you live anywhere else in the world. You're probably thinking like, oh man, this guy has no chance.
You know, I think that's true to an extent, Sean, because of the fact, we do see him out here. We know he trains at Legends. We know he trains with Manny Robles. We see him around. We know who Andy is. People from Southern California around the boxing community, we know who Andy is. But that still didn't change the fact that 99% of us thought he was going to lose.
That's fair.
Whether we knew him or not, we still thought he was going to lose. I mean, all could
see that point.
There was, I don't know. Like I said, with Nancy telling me about Mauricio, but I don't know any boxing writer that actually predicted Reese to win.
I think Abraham went on Twitter right before the fight and put it out there.
Abraham from New York Fights.
He shared his tweet right before then that said, "You know what? Forget it. I'm calling it. Ruiz has got it."
Yeah. Said, "Fuck it." You said Reese got this. Why not?
Dude, I think Anthony Joshua was like a minus 2,500.
It was
minus 2,500. Like if you bet 2,500 to win, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, but, congratulations to that whole team at Legends Boxing. Congratulations to Manny Robles. I had seen the interview. I went back and I watched the Spanish broadcast of it.
Manny's interview?
Yeah. And where he was talking about, this goes out to all the Mexicans. This not just the Mexicans, but all the Latino community. What a big, inspiring moment to show that if you want it, you can actually go out there and accomplish it. I mean, just put your mind to it, put your heart to it, and you can accomplish it. And I think a lot of that goes back to somebody like you, for instance. You don't have the experience. You had 13 fights in the amateur.
Correct. Yeah.
You were an underdog going into that fight with Ballos, and you came away victorious. It's not necessarily your skills, but I think a lot has to do with heart. Yeah.
Your skills probably has something to do with it.
No, and I'm not saying all. I'm not saying
it's
all
not
of
your
that.
skills, bro.
I'm not saying that, man. I mean, of course he has skills, but I mean, he's got a lot of God-given natural abilities. I mean, when you have an 80-inch reach and you're 6'4" and you know how to pop a jab and know how to use a jab, then of course, I mean that comes into play as well. So, I mean, how much do you actually want this, man? Growing up, what got you into fighting, and why do you want to box?
This is all I ever wanted since I seen my first laid eyes on boxing. This is ever since I seen I got a hunger, and I just wanted it, and that hunger is deep inside me until, who knows, till it's gone. Till when it's gone, it's when I achieve my goals. It's, get that WBC belt, get all the belts I possibly can. But what got me in was just, my mom and my dad, really told me as a kid, that I could be a champion. I could be a boxer, and just growing up around family, seeing around boxing, it's really got me into it.
So how old were you when that all started to shape?
When I first joined boxing, I was around 12 years old.
Okay. And you started competing shortly thereafter, or was it a
No,
while before you went into
a while
competition?
after. I was 16 when I first turned amateur. Yeah, but I started training for the amateurs when I was about 14.
And you are obviously a boxing fan. You watched the fights last night. I could tell that you enjoy a good
Yes.
fight. Are there specific role models or people, aside from Andy Ruiz, who, of course, is all our new favorite fighter, but is there a specific role model or someone who you look at and say, yeah, I like the way that person boxes. That's who I want to compete in that way?
Not necessarily, no, because I admire, and I give respect to all the fighters out there because, I know what it takes, and, I really got respect for all the fighters because it's just something inside of us that, that we dig deep inside to come out and, put everything on the line. And so all of my styles, no, man, I just a little bit of everybody.
Yeah, you just take the best of whoever you
Yeah,
see out there,
a little
right?
bit of everybody
Some
here and
defense
there.
from this guy, some punching hand speed
I
from
like
that
a
guy.
lot of Roy Jones Jr., Sugar Ray
Oh, man.
Leonard.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
Roy was what got me into boxing. I was actually just telling them this like last week or the week before. Roy is what
Yeah,
really made me
he's
start
my top
gravitate towards it. Yeah, I love watching Roy.
So what's next for you, man? I mean, coming off that big victory, what's next for you?
We're just staying active and looking forward to maybe fighting in Vegas in August. Looking towards for that date.
So right now you're a free agent, but there has been a lot of different promotional companies looking at you, Golden Boy, Top Rank, and I'm hearing even Roy Jones Jr. Have you and your team decided, which direction you guys are going to head to?
We haven't decided yet. We're still looking at that, waiting. Just being patient, and when the right opportunity comes, we'll take it.
And a lot of your sparring, I know you train out of the Elite Gym in Victorville, California, but you've been sparring a lot.
Shout out.
Shout out to Elite,
What's
shout
up,
out.
Elite?
But you've been training up in Big Bear with Abel as well, right? As
Correct.
far as like your sparring, you've sparred a few undefeated middleweights, right? Tell us a little
Yes.
bit about that.
Oh yeah, it's really good work, man. Abel's a really good guy, and those guys up there are serious work. It's really good work. Sparring up there is I like the elevation. It's really good. But sparring those guys they're tough undefeated fighters. They're there for serious business. And yeah, there's all I gotta say is big respect to them.
Exactly, man. Because who was it you were sparring with? Ali Akhmedov?
Yeah, Ali, and I was sparring with Sergey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Nice. So, any of the other fights? Did you catch any of the other fights last night besides the Joshua Reese fight?
I did not.
No.
No.
So there's another fight I want to talk about. It kind of pales in comparison. It's weird to say this, but Katie Taylor, okay? Because Katie Taylor became an undisputed world champion last night in a controversial, I guess is what we'll call it, decision. A controversial decision that benefited Katie Taylor. It's a remarkable accomplishment. There are very few undisputed champions in all of boxing. Very much overshadowed by, and rightfully so, by one of the biggest upsets we've seen in the sport of boxing. But I do want to take a minute to recognize that fight for a few reasons. One was because it was good. It was a good fight. You may not have liked the decision that came out of it, but I thought that fight was personally high action fight. They were exchanging for all 10 rounds. I went through and I scored it round by round because of the controversy. So I took a minute, replayed it back, scored it round by round. I personally thought it was a draw, which means that if you thought either fighter won, I can understand that because it means they really only had one round different than me. And there were very few definitive rounds. I think if you look at the judges' scorecards, they only agreed on 3 rounds. It was like, and they were all in favor of like Katie Taylor. Yeah. They agreed on 3 rounds for Katie Taylor and then a few rounds the other way as well.
I don't think Katie was ready for that pressure that Pearson was applying.
You don't think so?
No. I mean, she stayed on top of Taylor that whole fight. Taylor never could get her counter going. And I think it was a completely different style than what she was ready for.
Well, I think here's the thing. It was a very physical fight. There was a lot of shoulders, a lot of forearms, a lot of headbutts and stuff like that. So there's a lot of contact that you're seeing between two fighters that aren't necessarily point-scoring blows, for instance. But I do think that the physicality wore on Katie over time. And I actually think this is one of the reasons why it would benefit for women's boxing to also have 3-minute rounds or perhaps 12-round title fights, because particularly looking at round 10, you look at it and you go, I don't know if Katie would make it out of this fight if they had to fight 3-minute rounds. I don't know if Katie would have made it out of here if they had to go 12 rounds. And I understand that there's medical reasons. We have a doctor coming on next week. I'm going to ask him about this for sure.
Right.
But I think that we would have got a more definitive answer if we had the longer fights. And I have not heard a woman say that they think they should only be able to fight 2-minute rounds.
It's yeah. So I know there was some studies done, but it's definitely it would definitely change the game when it comes to boxing, having 3-minute rounds for these females that get in there and fight, especially at some of these smaller weight classes. I think the amount of punishment that they can give and take would change drastically in a 3-minute round, because now you're adding 50% more.
Yeah, I think
to that round.
I think you would see potentially more knockouts. I could make an argument that Clarissa Shields could have won her last fight by knockout if they fought 3-minute rounds and actually got to extend into 12 rounds, right? So I think you'll see more knockouts. If they're fighting 3-minute rounds. Gail jumped on, so shout out to Gail. She agrees.
Community Digital News. Make sure to follow Gail. There's
make sure to follow Gail. She agrees with me, so I feel good now.
There you go.
If Nancy's still on, I'm sure she agrees with me. Does Nancy's got to be into 3-minute rounds?
I don't know.
Gotta be into 3-minute rounds for women. Either way, I will say remarkable fight. I personally thought it was a draw. I guess a lot of people saw it the other way.
It was a good fight. You know what though, Katie? It was Katie's toughest challenge to date. She went in there and she hung in there, and she pulled it off. Whether you think she did, whether you think she didn't, I mean, like I said, it depends on the scoring. It depends on the scoring. If you're looking at the work output, or you're looking at the harder shots, like you say, me and you can sit here and I can pitter pat you for 2.5 minutes, and in the last 30 seconds, you bust up my fucking nose, you break my nose, and we
actually had this argument recently.
And I don't fall, but yet I've hit you 30 times, but your face is still looking nice and pretty, and now I'm busted up with a broken nose.
Nancy said no.
Who wins that round?
Nancy's not into 3-minute rounds.
What?
For women. Nancy, tell me why. Because I just feel like we would get a more definitive answer into some of these fights, and I think it's understanding that I believe the rationale behind
women's health. She's saying.
Yeah, it's a men's health, like meaning it's a sport of combat, right? So like I understand women's health, but I also think it's their decision. They get to choose whether or not they put themselves into this position. No one is making these women fight, and I understand that the idea, I believe, is that the level of estrogen makes it longer for them to recover from serious injury, particularly brain injury and bruising and things like that. But yeah, boxing's dangerous. Like you get that, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Boxing's dangerous. I get it. And I think that the fighters themselves should be able to make that decision. They should be able to choose and say, no, we want to fight 3-minute not 3-minute rounds. We want to fight 12 3-minute rounds, 10 3-minute rounds. So like I do think that, and particularly in my experience, when you interview fighters themselves, the actual fighters, they all say 3 minutes. I've never heard a fighter say that she wants to stick with 2-minute rounds. Whether it was Sinisa Estrada while she was on here, whether it was the $1 Million Beast, all the people who we've spoken to.
Aaron Tohill.
3-minute rounds. Aaron, 3-minute rounds.
I think one time I had talked to Clarissa, and Clarissa was fine with the 2 minutes. I don't know if she's changed her stance on it, but I know she was okay with the 2-minute rounds.
Nancy said it's far more dangerous for a woman than it is for a man, and that she will post an article on it. I appreciate that, because I would actually like to see it. I would like to see a really compelling article on that. Because I'm open to changing my mind.
Yeah, what she's saying also is that women's boxing, they're just not going to get paid as much as a man. So why take that extra risk if they're not going to see the pay either,
Well, to Gail's point, who's on here, Gail said that women pros won't be taken as seriously as men until they fight 3-minute rounds.
You know what, though? Honestly, on that part, Gail, I doubt it. I just don't think that women, whatever they do, I just don't think they're going to ever have that fan base that male boxing does. And it's sad to say. I like watching the females fight. Especially the flyweights, the super flyweights, some of these lighter weights where they just go out there and go gun ho and throw a lot of punches. But if it moves from 2 minutes to 3 minute rounds and then 12-round title fights, I don't think that's going to affect the fan that doesn't like it. Either way, they're still not going to like female boxing. If they don't like it, they have that mindset that they don't like females in boxing. That's not going to change their mind.
I think perhaps that's just a matter of time. So there's like this archaic feeling where there's still a group of individuals who came up in a place where female boxing wasn't really a thing, and it's like sacrilegious to have women box, right? But that's like that's like, you know, we're getting out of that. More and more people, you're seeing it actually blossom now. But you're seeing more people get into women's boxing now than have been into it in the past. And you're actually seeing the level of competition among women step up. They're actually more skilled fighters than we've ever seen in large quantities. People like Clarissa Shields and Katie Taylor, Michaela Mayer, who are decorated Olympians, have tremendous amateur pedigree, who are incredibly skilled and talented. So we're still kind of at a place where those types of people generally there's a vast skill difference between them and their competition. And it's not their fault. It's because of lack of competition within a given weight class. As that fills out and these people become names and bigger names and things like that, more and more women will compete, and you'll start to see it. And this tradition of, like, women can't box, that'll go out the window. It just takes time.
I mean,
it just takes time.
But here's the thing. Yeah, they're highly publicized now. You see them, you hear them. They're in commercials, whatnot, right? They're fighting on the major networks. They're fighting on Showtime. They're fighting on DAZN. They're fighting on Top Rank. But yet the pay level in the early 90s for somebody like Christy Martin and somebody like Layla Ali, Mia St. John, is just blowing away the amount that they're getting paid now. So that's what I don't understand. You know, now that they have all this exposure, now that they're on, you know, in the mainstream, but yet the pay doesn't even touch what they were getting 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair criticism. You know, I can't say that it doesn't, but I tend to be optimistic, and I think the reason I'm optimistic about women's boxing is just because I think it's growing. I think I'm watching it grow right now. Like, when they're on TV way more than ever. We had the first, you know, women's boxing main event on this promotion, and then the first women's boxing televised main event on this promotion. So I actually think we are seeing it blossom. We're seeing it grow. And I don't know why we would expect that it would just suddenly stop. Like, why would it stop? It's growing. We're watching it.
It's kind of like your shirt says, man, just boxing. It shouldn't be women. It shouldn't be men. It's just boxing. Of course they're going to fight, you know, female fights and males fighting male. But, I mean, it's just boxing. If you love the sport, if you love the sweet science, their skill level is just as good, if not higher, than some of these men that box. Like you said, you have to have a skill to play in the NFL. You have to have a skill to play in the NBA. You don't have to have a skill to box. You pass a test and you box.
That is
you know
true.
What I'm saying?
Yeah.
You pass a test and you box.
To be fair, I'm not saying boxers are unskilled, just to clarify. What I'm saying is that in virtually every other sport except for combat sports, there is like a minimum, like in terms of the people who play in the NBA are the best in the world at playing basketball. Yeah. Everybody who plays in the NBA are phenomenal basketball players.
They're athletes, yeah.
In boxing, that's not the case. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be good to become a professional boxer. You have someone come down, you take the test, you spar 4 rounds, and that's it. And there's plenty of people who you can look at their records, or you can look at them compete and say, that guy probably shouldn't be a pro because it's bad for his health. You know, not for any reason. Perhaps he's naturally a fighter. It can be in his spirit, right? Like, it could be in his guts that he wants to fight,
Right.
Yeah.
but maybe bad for his health. You know what I mean? And we see cats like that all the time in boxing. We see that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to clarify. That's what I mean by it. Gail said, "What are the pay scales like for women in MMA?"
I think they get more, and the reason is because there's less fighters, right? There's less fighters, and it's more monopolized. So they're able to distribute that money a little bit more to a certain fighter. When you have somebody like Ronda Rousey, you have somebody like a Cyborg, right? How many big names do you actually have? Where, like you said, you just named 10 great female fighters, you know, from Clarissa Shields to Cecilia Brækhus to Christina Hammer, Katie Taylor, the Serrano sisters. You have all these names where in the UFC you have Rousey, you have a Cyborg. So you're able to distribute more of that cash towards one person.
Daniel said he doesn't like to see women's fault. Maybe he's old. I didn't mean to offend you, brother. I appreciate your support. Just so you know, to each their own. He said he doesn't like to see women box. Maybe it's because they're old. And I said, to each their own. But I think the difference to me, one of those points I agree with, which is because the UFC is a single entity, the distribution of money between fighters can be a little bit better because you have fighters who are under contract for 5 fights. They have a set amount that they're getting, and they're just told who to fight, and they have to do it, right? And there's not another entity or league that's really competing to take that competition away. But the other thing is they've actually had breakout stars. They've had crossover stars.
Yeah.
Right? So, meaning you look at people like Cyborg and in particular Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey was not a women's MMA star. She was an MMA star. Yeah. That's it, period. She was, there was a moment where you look at the UFC and it's like Conor and it's Ronda.
Yep.
And they're both the ones who are like sort of at the time, and she's competing in the main events and doing all of that different stuff. And I think once you have a crossover star, someone who really breaks out as being able to capture or captivate a male audience, the paydays will inherently go up. When it's good for one person, it's good for everybody.
Man, how come Creed didn't have a daughter instead? It could have been like, the Creed movie with Clarissa Shields in it or something.
They could do more Rockies. That dude's going to do Rockies for like the next 25 years. I know he says he's retired, but I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. Every time they make one, I'm going to watch it. You guys are going to watch it, right?
Regardless.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Exactly,
You'll watch it every time it comes out. He could be in it for 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, we got to go to the theaters and see that. I'm going to go see Rambo Last Blood.
Yeah. Another fight, man, that I
you're gonna watch Rambo. Come on, you're gonna watch Rambo.
I ain't gonna watch Rambo, man. Get back to boxing, bro.
What are we talking about, dude?
What about Devin Alexander, man? Is that it for him? Getting knocked out yesterday by a Red Catch, getting stopped by Red Catch?
I was saying before this, it's unfortunate because Devin has a story, where he went through the whole addiction thing. Even his trainers weren't aware of his addiction. It led to some fights being more competitive than they should have been, probably even him losing fights that he may not have lost to opponents that, at the time weren't sort of in peak condition. And so it's better, I think, for Devin Alexander to have a story where he comes back and is able to experience the success, right? Like, it's better for the story of Devin Alexander, which in general is better for boxing. So, I wish Devin... Plus, I think he actually in that last fight, was it Victor Ortiz? Where Devin Alexander and Ortiz, where most people feel as though he clearly won that fight, but they gave it a draw. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of a point in their respective careers where... that was supposed to make a big difference. So, I wish him all the best. Congratulations to his opponent. But I do. It is one of those things where it's tough. It's tough to watch. It's tough to watch him get knocked out like that.
Exactly. PBC. PBC. All the belts.
All the heavyweight belts?
All the heavyweight belts.
I know my mind is still blown. My mind is still blown.
So they're basically controlling the heavyweight division. They're controlling the welterweight division right now, Premier Boxing Champions.
To an extent, but you have to remember, they have a rematch clause, and should that be exercised, Eddie Hearn retains promotional control of Andy Ruiz, at least for the near future. So if that fight is going to be rematched, it's going to be rematched where they choose. It will be featured on DAZN. So it's not like all of a sudden all those belts are with Al Heyman, and now Al's making all the decisions, and it's going to be on Showtime pay-per-view and all this. No, it's a rematch clause for a contract that was with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn will retain promotional control. It'll be on DAZN. It'll go back there. So the worst thing that could happen, really, is they exercise the rematch clause, and then sometime in November, December, Andy Ruiz goes to the UK, loses that fight. The belts go back to Anthony Joshua, and, that's kind of just a flash in a pan moment. Because it doesn't mean that we'll get to see all the heavyweight champions mix it up. It doesn't guarantee any of that stuff.
So, exactly.
But, I think that it's still what everybody wants to see.
So
Daniel says that he thinks that boxing should be like UFC, one belt, one champ. You know what, brother? I can't disagree. Fight fans, I should say, if you're not really into boxing, you can't truly know who all the champions are. I'm super into it. I watch all the fights all the time, And if you quizzed me on like going through the box rec page and said, go me all the champions in all the divisions, no way. No way I could do it. You couldn't do it either, right? Hell no.
Because you have the regulars, you have the supers, you have now the the WBA Gold. So you have a gold, a regular, and a super. You have interims. You have diamond champions. You have world champions. You have silver champions for...
I'm going to make a video just explaining all of the title belts that you can win. Just at world level. Not
regional level.
Not regional level, but just at world level, all the belts that you can win.
You know, regional, the NABO, NABF, NABA, the interims, the silver, the regular, the gold.
You know what I thought was interesting? A few weeks back, you saw Tyson Fury. Did you guys see Fury like post on Instagram where he was saying like, "I'll fight Dillian White for the WBC Diamond belt"? No, you didn't see that? So the WBC released something saying that they wanted Tyson Fury and Dillian White to compete for an interim world heavyweight WBC title, and he responded by saying, "Thank you. If you guys make it for the WBC Diamond belt, then it's on. I'll mix it up with Dillian White."
All right.
I thought that was a peculiar response.
Interim and diamond. I mean, diamond's more of a...
It's like a milestone belt. Like it's
it's more of a like...
It can be defended, but it's like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about Tyson, man.
Caleb Smith, who fought last night, is the WBC Diamond champion.
What a fight, man.
What a fight? What a knockout, you mean?
Knockout. I mean, yeah, not really a fight. Shit, you're right. He tore Endom up. He laid his ass out.
He did, man. He actually, it was proper. I'm surprised that it...
Yeah, talks like Caleb and Canelo.
Speaking of which, we didn't even get into the stoppage. So can we talk about the stoppage real quick for Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua? I'll go down the line. We'll start down here with you, Juan. Was the stoppage warranted? Was it appropriate for the referee to stop the fight at that time?
Yes, because there's no response in Joshua. You know, sitting there, you know, that little extra pause costed him a lot. And
you don't necessarily mean verbally. You mean like just the way he was conducting himself in the moment?
Body language, just sitting there, you know, like
propped up.
Yeah, propped up.
Being held up by the corner ropes.
Yep.
What do you think, Stax? Was it a good stoppage or not a good stoppage?
It was a great stoppage. I mean, once he got dropped that second time, he spit the mouthpiece out for one. Then when he got up, he was up by the 8 count. He didn't stand there. He turned and he walked away from the ref. As soon as he turned his back, the ref could have waved it off. As soon as he walked away from the ref during that count, he could have waved it off. Because basically when you walk away to look at your corner to decide what the hell you're going to do, you're done. So he could have waved it off there. Yeah, he told him, do you want to box? Do you want to continue? Whatnot. Kind of had a response. Kind of sort of did. But he didn't argue it. He was done. It was
one of those. What? All right then.
Yeah.
What? You stopped it? Okay then. All right. That's cool. That's what he did, right? Like,
yeah,
that's basically what he did. No, I mean, I thought the stoppage was fine. In particular, I actually think he's fortunate that the round... So in round 3, after he'd gone down the second time, which was basically took it to the end of the round. So there was no time left in that round. And so when he got up, I didn't feel as though he was really obeying the referee's instructions in any way. And I think they kind of let it slide just by virtue of the fact that the round is over, he's going to get to sit down, right?
Yeah.
But, like, they're telling him step forward, and that was the most, like, lackadaisical step I've ever seen in my life. Like, you know, you want to see someone who wants to stay in. You remember when Tyson Fury got floored by Deontay Wilder in the 12th and how he got up and started running back and forth and was trotting and like doing exactly everything Jack Reese was saying?
Yeah.
You know, like that's
he wanted it.
Dude, he was like, "No, I'm still going," right? Yeah. And I just didn't see that in Anthony Joshua in the third round. He did give some verbal cues. And in the final round, in the 7th round, he gave some verbal cues and said, yeah, but I agree. He was kind of just posted up in the corner and never really came off the corner. Mm-hmm. He didn't, like, reach his gloves out. He didn't really do anything. He was just kind of relaxing. He looked like at the beginning of the fight when he was leaning in the corner getting the neck massage or whatever that was going on.
Yeah.
That's how it looked. You guys seen that? He was, like, getting the massage, the head massage before the fight went on.
They went in that ring so damn long. There's no reason they should have been in that damn ring for those national anthems, all 3 of those national anthems. They should have did that before, man. Before they even walked out, they should have had those people in the ring singing that national anthem.
Gail agrees with you. She says you spit your mouthpiece out, you're done.
You're done.
You're done. It's just a time saver.
Exactly.
Just trying to buy a little
Yeah.
bit of extra time.
You know, it's crazy, you know, because as I was watching the fight, the third round, great round, could be round of the year, you know, I mean, and when Reese didn't come back out and attack in that fourth, and he took it easy, and then he took it easy again in the fifth, and he got cracked, I'm thinking, Jesus, Reese, you let him off the damn ropes, man. You're gonna let him come back and beat you. And I'm replaying it. You know, I'm replaying the fight in my head, and I'm just telling myself, he still did it.
Dude,
he still knocked out, stopped Joshua.
I was saying before we started that if round 3 happened exactly as it happened, and then the fight continued and Anthony Joshua recovered, and let's say he knocked out Andy Ruiz somewhere in the 7th or 8th round. So Andy Ruiz makes it to 8 rounds. He gets knocked out. But round 3 happened exactly the way it happened. Still would have been remarkable. It would have been phenomenal. Like, Andy Ruiz would have been able to go on and fight Deontay Wilder and on TV fights, not just because he knocked Joshua down twice and had him seriously hurt and in trouble. The fact that he even did that one time in round 3, the 2 knockdowns where you're like, oh, man, they might stop it. That would have been great. I was already screaming. I lost my voice. You called me afterwards. Yeah. I completely lost my voice. And a lot of that happened in round 3. Not like a lot of it happened in round 7, too, but a lot of it happened in round 3.
Were you outside? Were you watching the fight outside?
No, I was watching it at my house, bro.
Oh, no, I seen that. No, because I seen that picture on Instagram. It looked like you were outside or something.
Oh, no, I wasn't outside. That was right in front of my TV. That's about how close I stand on the intense fights. So for those of you who are just listening to the audio version of this, when the fight gets real intense, I'm about 8 inches from the TV.
Sitting there.
That's how close I watch it. No, I stand. I don't sit for the big deals. I stand for those ones the whole time. That's why when people are like, "Hey, you want to go out to the bar and watch this fight?" I'm like, "I don't think you want to do that with me, bro." I don't think you want to do that. It's kind of embarrassing for whoever's with me. Only the high intensity ones, you know. I was sitting for all the way up until he scored the knockdown in round 3, and then 8 inches from the screen, the whole rest of the fight. But I'm with you. I actually thought he let him off the hook. So at the end of round 3, they both kind of took round 4 off. They both seemed hurt. You know, they were just kind of – there was even a point where they laughed at each other, I think, and you're just kind of sitting there like, oh, man, he let him off the hook. He's going to come back. It's going to be another Klitschko. There's going to be a Klitschko experience here where he comes back and is able to recover, but he wasn't.
All right, man, culture, is it a culture thing, something that the UK people do or what? Because –
Sweet Caroline?
No, not Sweet Caroline.
Because that is a culture.
Joshua, man, being up there with Reese after the fight, and yeah, he's showing him respect, but to me, that was a little bit too much damn respect. That was just like, yeah, you're going to show him and you're going to congratulate him or whatnot, but he's sitting there and smiling, and oh, the night belongs to him. Good job. You did it. It's, to me,
it's kind of like saying someone's too polite or they have too much class.
Exactly.
You can't really have too much class.
Exactly.
I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. Is that a culture? Is that a culture thing? Because
no, I mean, go watch Carl Froch do an interview. It doesn't sound, anything like that. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
There's a bunch of dudes who do interviews. That I don't think it's a cultural thing. I just think he himself is probably a classy individual.
Yeah, very, very good sportsman.
Yeah, good sportsman. But I also think, hey, look, for all the people who are going to make up whatever excuse they're going to make up, because I already seen a bunch of it. I've been reading your Facebooks. I've been going through all the comments. The truth is the media gave Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn every opportunity to make up whatever excuse they wanted to make up for this fight. They had, champ, you didn't look so good when you came out to the ring. Oh, no, I was fine. Champ, it took you a long time to leave your dressing room. Was something wrong? No, it was just my guard. Eddie, he had a sty on his eye. Was something wrong with Anthony? No, there was nothing wrong. 15 times throughout the post-fight press conference and everything else, they both said there was nothing wrong. He just got knocked out. So all the stuff that's like going on about, he's overlooking it. He was doing this. He was, it was bad. He's made too much money. Teddy Atlas said he made too much money in his career. Right now he doesn't want it anymore.
What about Stephen A. Smith, man?
Yeah, forget. I don't even want to address
Dude.
That. That's a silly comment.
That shit right there had me heated this morning. When I woke up and I seen that on my timeline, the people are taking screenshots of his Twitter. Like, come on, man. Like, seriously, ESPN, man, you guys should be ashamed of yourself for letting somebody even comment on boxing that doesn't know a damn thing about it, because that's one of the worst comments I've seen in a long time. You got to give Reese some goddamn credit, man.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like, everybody wants to make up that something happened to Anthony Joshua. Like, something happened. And here's all that I would say to all the people who said, no, he wasn't right, he wasn't in the right frame of mind, you know, whatever the case is. Here's what I would say. If Andy Ruiz didn't get up in round 3, or if he wasn't able to recover from that knockdown, nobody would be saying that Anthony Joshua wasn't in the right frame of mind or anything. What happened is Andy Ruiz showed some perseverance, he showed some character, and when Anthony Joshua tried to jump on him, he got caught. That's it. He just got caught. He's just trying to jump on him, trying to put him away. He got caught with a clean shot and never recovered for the whole rest of the fight. That's what happened. Like, don't make up other stuff. If it ended in the 3rd round, everybody would be like, see, that's what we told you. That's what we did. You know, like that's what would happen. It's not what happened.
My question is, you know, and I don't expect any of you guys to have the answer, I mean, but is there an extra pressure that's lifted off of Joshua now that he's not undefeated? And does he become hungry again to become champion? I'm thinking, yeah, you know, maybe he'll get that hunger back, you know, but when you're on the top, and you're on the top of not just Great Britain, but of the world stage, you know, you're at the very top. I mean, where do you go from there? How do you keep that hunger alive? And, you know, him coming to Miami, and that's what I was saying, and I know you're going to jump on me about this. Yes, I'm still giving Reese all the credit in the world, but when you're at the top, you leave camp, you leave your home, you go to Miami, you're there, and I'm not saying he wasn't focused on it because he got hit and his fucking chin didn't last, but what I'm saying is, like, maybe it's a little bit different now that he has that loss. When he runs it back against Reese, maybe that hunger is going to be there. Maybe it's going to spark something in his head to realize, God damn it, I am beatable.
Yeah, I mean, we'll know when they get in the ring. Like, will the loss impact him? For certain, right? Yeah. I have no doubt that it will impact him, but it could impact him in a positive way. It could impact him in a negative way. And you don't really know. That speaks to sort of someone's character and where they're at in their life. Like it could be that he turns around and says, you know what? I'm not cool with that. I want to avenge that loss. I want to go back and I want to get these things. And to a certain extent, I think that's what Deontay Wilder was trying to say with that tweet. So, like, you know, essentially, you know, he's saying that he's trying to clean up his record, right? Because there's people who say he should have been stopped against Ortiz. There's people who say he lost to Tyson Fury, which many of us think he did, right? So his point is, hey, I'm going back and I'm trying to clean that stuff up. I want to wax that out, right? Like when he didn't knock out Bermane-Stiverne, he wanted to fight to Bermane-Stiverne again because he didn't get the knockout that time, right? And I think that he says it in a very tasteless and poor way, you know, but that's a lot of what he's trying to say. But the truth is, we don't know how Anthony Joshua will take that and internalize it. But does it impact you? I have to imagine it does. Like, nobody sits there going, like, I lost, all right. Like, you know, like, it doesn't. Yeah,
in some way.
Yeah, it has to, right? It has to. I just don't see how it couldn't, personally. But, you know, the problem is like, now when we do see these big heavyweight fights, like, let's say they do fight. Let's say Deontay Wilder beats him, for instance. You know, they'll...
So what? Andy beat him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they're going to say.
People will be like, yeah, but he had been knocked out by Andy Ruiz, and he was on his way down. You know, if Tyson Fury beats him. So, like, I will say this. Tyson Fury is still an interesting fight because Tyson Fury isn't that kind of fighter. The style is very different. Tyson Fury's, you know, slick, working off the jab, lots of head movement. Yep. He's not in there like, hey, I'm going to knock you out with this one punch. And he's trying to make you miss and just land sort of a minimum number of competent blows so that he can take rounds and bank rounds. So even Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury could still be very interesting because he's not going to get pounded out of there by Tyson Fury. You know, he might get outboxed, but he's not going to get pounded out.
How would you handle it, man? I mean, going into a big fight like that, being an undefeated champion, having the height. And most of your fights, especially at super middleweight, are going to be guys that are a lot shorter than you, man. How do you prepare for something like that?
A lot of sparring. A lot of sparring. Endless rounds of sparring just with guys, you know, around the same height. You know, that's what you prepare for.
How far in advance do you normally know with certainty who your opponent is going to be? So, like, I imagine that you'll try and find sparring partners who can kind of mirror some of those attributes, whether they're left-handed or whatever the case is. Yeah. But at this stage where you're early on, you know, in your first 10 victories, do you know who your opponent is, like, weeks in advance, or is it really more towards the fight date?
Yeah, more towards the fight date, say 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior.
Okay. So still time to make some adjustments in
Yeah,
camp.
but for my last fight for Bellows, I had a 2-month period.
Okay, yeah.
So you had the whole 8-week camp.
Yeah.
And do you find at this stage, like obviously at the highest level, there's tape on everybody,
Yeah.
right? So you can go to YouTube and find clips and watch people. Do you find that there's a lot of material on the people who you're fighting? Like, can you actually go and research them on the internet and stuff like that? Or is it just that it's not quite there yet with these guys and you have to prepare for in different ways?
Yeah, in different ways. Just prepare and just be ready for the unexpected. But for Bellows, I had a lot of video, a lot of video to study for.
Is it easy to lose focus and overlook an opponent, man?
It's really up to the fighter. But if you know how strong your focus is and where you stand.
Because especially starting your career, this time they actually fed you to the wolves, man. You went out there and you guys, and I say that them being Mayweather Promotions, thinking, of course, we got this guy, looking at your amateur record, looking at your record. He's a kid from the high deserts, never fought anybody. We're gonna make this a comeback fight for Bellows, so he can get a victory. He's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. He'll get this victory over this kid. He'll gain his self-confidence again, and then you beat him, right? So I guess what I'm saying is, but for the most part, a lot of times when you're starting, your manager, your guys' team is gonna feed you victory so you can improve and use it as a measuring stick to know exactly where you're at.
Correct.
So I think sometimes some of these younger fighters, man, that have all the confidence in the world and they're pumped up and they got 1 million Instagram followers and their promotion company is just saying they're the next best thing since sliced bread, get in there sometimes and just overlook these guys that they're fighting. That's why I brought that up, is because, and I'm sure you see it too.
Yeah, that's a good point. How popping is your Instagram right now? No, I'm just messing around. Do you have a media guy?
No.
No, I know. I don't either. I have no idea how to use Instagram. I actually have people on the show come and show me how to do stuff. I learned how to do a story the other week and everything. It's kind of fire now. I got it going.
Oh yeah, your IG, man. I see it, man. Your post every 3 days or so often.
3 days, once a week for the flyer that's going out for this show.
And that comes late, fool. Damn.
I did research on this before you criticize me too much, and it said 1 day's notice is the best amount of time to give people.
For what, a fight?
No, not a fight. We don't fight on here, bro. We do.
I know what you're
But it's normally one-sided, but...
A 1 day notice for a guest being on the show?
1 day notice, to notify people about the show. So I do it the day before. It's not that I'm lazy. I actually, read stuff on the internet.
That doesn't make it true, bro. One time I read there was a unicorn at some park.
That probably happened, dog.
And I went looking for it and it wasn't there.
Was it Wikipedia?
Yeah.
All right, then it was real for sure. No, I'm just
No, man.
Oh, man.
Also, coming up, we got the tournament, man, the WBC Amateur Tournament. There's going to be a ton of fighters. So if you're in the Southern California area, man, we got a list of fighters that are going to be there, including Juan Barajas. He'll be there. You got Mikey Garcia is going to be there. Leo Santa Cruz is going to be there. Joseph Jojo Diaz will be there. Shane Mosley, Israel Vasquez, Mauricio Suleiman's coming in from Mexico City. And this year is a very special tournament. It's going to be dedicated to one of Juan's stablemates. Getting a little choked up here, man.
No worries, bro.
Last year, this kid, his name was Jose Huerta, stablemate of Juan Barajas in Victorville. He was on his way home from the gym, and he was struck and killed. He's an amateur, got hit by a car, and he was struck and killed. So this year's tournament is going to be dedicated to his buddy Huerta. So we got his family coming in. Mauricio is going to be dedicating some stuff to his family Saturday. So it's going to be a good show, man. If you're out there, come support the amateurs, because that's where it all starts. It starts in the amateur program. Whether you fight 13 fights or whether you fight 100 fights, 300 fights like Loma, that's where it starts, man. It starts in the amateurs. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on those 3 days. It starts Thursday night. We got fights Thursday the 13th starting at 6 p.m. at South Almani High School. Friday at 6 p.m. And then Saturday, it's an all-day thing Saturday. There'll be a little taco truck out there. There'll be hamburgers, hot dogs. There'll be food out there for sale. You can meet the fighters, get autographs, take pictures. So if you're in the area of Southern California, man, make sure to stop by South El Monte. If you have an amateur fighter that's going to fight, it's not a tournament, okay? It is not a tournament. It's a show. So there's no pre-matching like a tournament. And amateur people will know what I'm talking about. You don't get set up with the pre-match. You weigh in, and they will set you up with some fights. That's how it's going to work. It's a show, not a tournament. You don't have to get pre-matched. You come in, you weigh in, and they set you up with the fight.
Cool.
So,
you know when the best time to let people know about that is?
The day before?
Yeah.
That
the day
Wednesday?
Before. Yeah, that Wednesday. You should let people know. No.
So how long did you and Juan train together, man?
Oh, were we worth that?
Huerta, I'm sorry, Jose.
Since I was 15.
Since you were 15, man.
Yeah, and his birthday is 2 days after mine. You know, he just turned 22. You know, and 10 days after he passed.
Wow.
Yeah, that's our condolences, of course, to his family and everything. This was last year, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
But I know there was, I think there was some fundraising and things like that done at that point in time, and now the WBC is dedicating Greenbelt to the family.
Yeah, the family had a they had a fundraiser. They had a little, of course, had the little GoFundMe or whatever to raise family. Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC actually stepped in and paid for a lot of the funeral, whatever was left on it. They stepped in and took care of the cost to help the family out, because as many people know, if you've had to bury somebody, if you've had to, have to pay for that stuff for a funeral, it's costly, man. It's expensive. It can run upwards to $15,000-$16,000 sometimes, depending on, the people that run these funeral services. So it was a good thing that the WBC did. And like I said, they'll be there for his family, for that kid's family. They'll be dedicating some stuff to his family, including a belt for Huerta. So it's gonna be a good show. I guess I want to say Grand Marshal, but like the main guy out there, because it's his hometown, is going to be Jojo Diaz. So he'll be out there repping.
Did you just make that title up right now?
Yeah,
the Grand Marshal,
like
Grand Marshal Jojo Diaz.
The WBC Green Belt Grand Marshal, Jojo Diaz.
Grand Marshal Jojo will be out there, and we'll keep. Do you know what? We got to work on that so that next time he fights on DAZN, we can get him announced that way. David Diamante has to announce him as Grand Marshal.
Joseph the Grand Marshal Diaz.
No, you just straight up Grand Marshal Joseph Jojo Diaz.
Nice,
right? That's the Grand Marshal.
Nice little ring to it, right there.
No.
Man. I like that.
Jojo, we'll be in contact. Don't worry, be in contact. Grand Marshal Jojo. Oh man.
Who else fought? Hugo Centeno took it now.
Hugo Centeno, he did, unfortunately. He dropped Chris Algieri. Chris Algieri won by knockout.
I heard that was a good fight, man. Somebody had texted me and said, "Hey, man, Algieri's in a good fight," and I'm like,
Yeah, he was in a title eliminator. The winner's intended to challenge Mo Hooker, I think, for his belt at 140.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Sound like I just showed you a good plate of cookies or something like that.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen, or he's not gonna win.
No, it's not gonna happen. Maurice Hooker is gonna be fighting Jose Ramirez in a unification fight the day before the Canelo fight. So in September, that Friday before in September, they have that set up. So there's gonna be a unification fight there with Ramirez and Hooker. I'm not for sure where. I know that Eddie Hearn doesn't want to fight in Fresno. They're trying to find a neutral ground.
Why not? No, I'm just kidding.
Man, have you ever?
Is hometown judging a real thing? No,
I believe so.
No, I'm just messing around. I know, of course it is.
Is it?
I'm sure it is.
There has to be judges in their hometown.
No,
what are you trying to say? That they favor the hometown fighter? Is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to say that every judge brings their own bias to every fight that they're in, and if they're familiar with the fighters, then it's a conflict of interest.
Is it hometown?
That's all I'm saying.
Is it
doesn't mean it's intentional.
Is it hometown, or is it red corner, blue corner?
See, here's the thing. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. So conspiracy theorists will tell you that, like, people are getting paid off, and, like, that the judges preordained all these different things. Like, I'm not like that. I just
like Adelaide Bird?
Yeah. Yeah, like they'll say Golden Boy's paying off judges for Canelo and stuff like that. That's what, that's kind of conspiracy theorist territory. Do they have bad scorecards? Yes. Of course, there's bad scorecards all the time in boxing, right? But I think a lot of times it's because that particular judge is bringing their own personal bias to it that they don't mean to do, and somehow it gets them down a path that just, ends up with the wrong people.
Shit, I remember how pissed off Bob Bennett was that night, man, when he was getting bashed about Adelaide Bird after the first Triple G Canelo fight.
Yeah.
He was pissed. He took the mic and says, how can you guys be saying that? I work for the FBI and this and that, right?
Yeah, it happens. I mean,
man,
it's bad. Don't get me wrong. When it happens, it's terrible, right? As fans, we look at it and go, "Man, what was that all about?" We get upset, but
I wonder if
I'm the opposite of Teddy Atlas in this respect. Teddy, it's corruption. It's people, like all this difference. I just think people are bad judges of things.
Well, here's my question to Bob Bennett, right? Because he had said that he had worked for the FBI. So
yeah,
if he's a Trump supporter, I wonder if Bob Bennett's a Trump supporter. And the reason I bring that up is because Trump thinks the FBI is corrupt. So if Trump thinks the FBI corrupt, I wonder if Bob Bennett was corrupt.
I'm not getting into this. I'm not getting into this. This is a boxing show.
No, that's what I'm saying, though,
holy
man.
Shit.
If Trump thinks the FBI was
Covering
corrupt,
the mic,
then Bob Bennett must be corrupt.
I'm cutting your mic.
And that Canelo scorecard was wrong and Triple G won, right?
Whatever he says coming up next does not reflect the views of this show or its guests. Just so you guys know. Holy cow. Man, somehow you always
throw some controversy in there.
I know. Like there wasn't enough controversy
At
already.
Least I ain't talking about our friends in the Middle East, huh?
Oh, God, don't start that again.
No, I won't.
Holy cow. Get the FCC on me.
Right.
And I'm not even on TV.
Exactly, man. Well.
Oh, man. But, yeah, so I think Chris Algieri, Josh Kelly fought to a draw, which was surprising. So Josh Kelly, the Olympian.
What do you think of that fight, man, that Josh Kelly fight between him and the new Ray Robinson?
You know what I think is likely to happen? They're likely to run it back, and we will see Josh Kelly win like a wide margin decision. He was, at parts of it, his skills seemed as though they were enough to carry him through the fight. And there are points where he was just, like laying back on the ropes and letting... like it just was peculiar. It just didn't seem like he did enough to really walk away with the victory. And I think that's the one that he'll look back at. He'll look at the tape and go, you know what? I could have walked away with that one. I could have won, easily enough rounds in that fight. And he'll study that tape and go back and win a wider decision this time.
Let's see what happens, man.
Yeah, but that was definitely a surprise. I mean, the second surprise draw for the real Ray Robinson.
Yeah, because his last fight with Mean Machine.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name.
He doesn't get anybody's name right, by the way. You should be.
I
should
get
feel
Barajas' name.
Yeah, you got
right,
Barajas right. Oh man.
Fighters, man. Right now, who's your favorite fighter? Or do you watch boxing?
Yes.
Yeah, he watched it. We've been
like
talking about it.
Active?
Yeah, active.
Gotta say myself. Number one.
That's right.
Of course.
That's right.
Of course.
Great answer. Great answer. Then after that, man, who do you like to watch?
Are there any active cats who you don't want to miss their fights? You want to check them out when they're on? Obviously, I assume the people in your division you're a little bit more critical of as an opponent potentially.
Yeah.
But for instance, at lower divisions or up at heavyweights, are there guys who you're like, I want to tune into his fights?
I like watching Earl Spence.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like his boxing. Real good boxer. Yeah, I like him. I like Canelo. A lot of people, Canelo's real. I feel like a lot of people underrate him a lot, but underestimate him a little bit. But Canelo's, I think he's for real. He's up there, and
he's switching, man. His whole style is completely changing, man. As he gets older, I remember when he fought Floyd. All Floyd did was run.
Oh yeah.
All Floyd did was run, and now you look at Canelo.
What do you mean he run?
Right? No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying me. I'm just saying that's what Canelo was saying. Canelo was basically saying all Floyd did was run, right? But now you look at some of Canelo's fights, and it's the defense, it's the shoulder roll, it's his defense, it's his head movement that's winning him the fights, and
all he did was run and land more punches in more of the rounds than
Canelo
than Canelo did, more frequently and with more effectiveness. He won basically every round of that fight. Yeah. See, that's one where there's a peculiar scorecard, right?
They should run it back.
You look at that one, you're like, somebody called that a draw? Actually, Daniel was just saying on here. Daniel said he would love to see Canelo and Floyd too. You can't make it happen, bro. I think at this point, Canelo's beyond fighting at catch weights down below 150. You know what I mean? He can't be fighting at 152 not. And stuff like that.
That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, and Floyd's not gonna fight anybody above that, despite the fact that he's in his 40s and stuff like that. So someone actually asked me today, do you think Canelo today would beat Floyd? At the time that they fought the first time, and I said, you can't answer it because you wouldn't be able to make the fight. They wouldn't be able to find a common ground. Canelo's not going to go that low. Floyd's not going to come that high. It's the same thing with when Triple G Floyd never fought Triple G. Like, yeah, because neither one of them are going to go and sacrifice 15 pounds to make that fight work. So I think you really can't answer it. Obviously, I would expect if it occurred, Canelo would probably dispatch of Floyd just because of the sheer size and power he's bringing to the event. But, like, the fight would never happen. It just wouldn't happen because of the size differential. So you can't really say.
No.
Today, Canelo would beat Floyd. I don't disagree with that, but it's not really saying much. I mean, Floyd is 40-something years old. He hasn't fought in a real boxing match in, I don't know, 5 years, 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, not counting Conor McGregor, going back to the to the fight before that, to Andre Berto. It's like...
And the Chinese kid.
Not counting. I know you're just getting everybody's like nationality wrong and stuff like that. My goodness. But not counting those cats. He hasn't fought in a boxing match in ages. He didn't even have to prepare for that kid. That kid was like 120 pounds and never boxed a boxing match in his life.
Yeah.
Didn't even have to get ready. My goodness.
So what do we got coming up, man? We got any big fights coming up?
There's always fights. Triple G fights next week at Madison Square Garden, also on DAZN. So I think Triple G making his ring return, trying to look spectacular.
Yep.
That one's coming up. You keep an eye on Triple G?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty, I don't know. I think the idea is we're supposed to see if he's like over the hill or not with this fight.
Yeah.
That's what everyone wants to see is Triple G, is he over the hill?
Yep.
So they're expecting the quick knockout.
So
What do you think?
G? Yeah.
Yeah. You think
Yeah.
so? Quick
Yeah.
knockout?
Quick knockout.
Oh, okay. Even still? You don't think he's too old for the quick knockout?
No, man.
Neither
He's still
do
got
I,
that
yeah.
power, man.
Yeah.
He's,
It's the last
you
thing
know,
to go.
yeah, exactly. The power's the last thing.
Last thing to go.
I know.
Do you think we'll see a very different... So he did an interview yesterday during the fight, and he said that he's going to surprise a lot of people and that he's made some of the biggest changes of his career. And we've had debates on this show a lot about whether or not you can, for lack of a better term, teach an old dog new tricks. Can you take a fighter who's really, established and past their prime, change coaches and actually have them really change the way that they box? And for the most part, I would say no. But then you look recently at like Sergey Kovalev, who changed trainers and very much changed the way that he performed as a fighter in his follow-up fight, and he was able to regain a title as doing such. Do you expect that because of this relationship with Jonathan Banks, Triple G will look like, or the experience of watching Triple G will be different than what we're accustomed to?
No.
There's the cookie plate again.
The cookie plate. No,
Get
you know
the
what?
cookie plate out
It's not gonna happen, man. Triple G's Triple G. I think he's gonna pop his jab. He's gonna take advantage of using that shotgun-like jab and then hurt him and knock him out. But as far as like his style changing, I just don't see it changing any. I mean, he's too far along in the game already to change up his style. I don't think Banks is gonna do anything except hold the goddamn water bucket for him.
Couldn't you have
That's
said the
the
same
only
about Kovalev though?
No, because you know what, Kovalev had that style. It's just with Ward.
He kind of abandoned it at some point in
Yeah,
his career.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I agree
mean,
with that.
I think after the second Ward fight, it kind of went out the window, and then especially with the Alvarez fight, and then he got back to what made him who he was when he fought Alvarez the second time. So yeah, but I don't see it Triple G switching anything up, man.
What do you think, Juan? Could a fighter... Do you expect to see him change dynamically? Do you think we'll see a completely different Triple G this time around?
Not this soon. It's too soon.
Too quick, yeah. Because that's a good point, because he really only has started his relationship with Jonathan Banks just a few weeks ago.
Recently, yes.
Yeah, so maybe by the time we get to a Canelo Alvarez type fight in the future,
Maybe
you
so,
could
yeah.
see some changes. That's a really good point. That is a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
How are you going to work with someone for just one camp?
Yeah.
Get him back. So
it looks like Friday night you got a Zab Judah getting back in the ring.
Nice.
So he's going to be taking on.
how did I not know that? I didn't know that. Did you guys know that?
No, I didn't.
He's taking on the Hebrew Hammer. You know who I'm talking
That
about, right?
dude,
Cletus?
yeah. Oh man, they were pushing him so hard. He was like fighting every month for a minute. He was
And
like,
he was doing good,
the
man.
Hebrew Hammer was like fighting every single month. I was like, I seriously was like, didn't this cat just fight like 25 days ago? And I was looking it up on BoxRec and stuff like that. And then he had that loss where he was really upset about that his opponent actually like moves and stuff like that. It was interesting. He like wanted him to stand still and get beat on, and they had to tell him like that's not in the rules. He can move around. He was complaining and stuff like that.
No, Saturday night, Oscar
that's
Valdez.
interesting.
You got Oscar Valdez
Yeah,
Saturday night taking on Jason Sanchez, which I gave my little piece on that last week and what
Yes,
I
you
thought
did.
about that goddamn fight. Little Gabe Flores, he'll be back in the ring.
He thought it was a great fight, by the way. No, I'm just
No. Also, talked to Andy Vences. His fight has been moved. So, for anybody that was going to be going up to Reno to watch Andy fight, he's not fighting in Reno. After all, they moved him to put him on the Tyson Fury card the week after. So, he'll be on that Tyson Fury card against Schwartz.
Who else is on that card? Michaela Mayer, and I think there's someone else. I don't remember.
Looks like your sparring partner, man, Ali Akhmedov, is going to be fighting as well. On the Triple G card, he'll be fighting against a cat named Marcus McDonald.
Nice.
So, yeah, he'll be there. Charles Cornwall. Who else? is
Man,
on there?
Daniel's on here saying he wants to see Mikael Kessler and Joe Calzaghe too. That's taking it way a little late. You're
Just
quite
a little
few
bit
years
late,
past,
man.
a little bit late.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that competitive the first time around, brother. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Joe pretty much did what he does.
So that card looks like you got Tyson Fury and Tom Schwartz in the main event. The co-main event, Sullivan Barrera and Jesse Hart. Michaela Mayer against Lisbeth Crespo.
Oh yeah, Jesse Hart. That was the other. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the other card I was thinking of.
Then a bunch of local cats, maybe young up and prospects. Guido Vanello against the also dangerous TBA.
Also dangerous.
Yeah. Sam Kellick.
What's the
Sonny
origin of your
Cordell.
nickname?
I don't have one right now.
You got a nickname?
You gotta.
You
You
can call me
have to give one.
JB, you know, but no, I don't have one yet.
JB is what? Yeah,
My
that's
initials,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But okay, so that's just because I think on BoxRec doesn't it say like just
Yeah.
business?
Just
Yeah.
Business. That's
Just
right.
Business?
Juan Just Business. Barajas.
Yeah, a lot of people just. I have people say I haven't given myself a nickname.
Okay,
But people, it's just
But
what
some people know you as
Let's,
just business.
let's give
It's
him. Let's
just-
keep the JB and give him your shirt's nickname, Just Boxing.
Just boxing.
Juan Just Boxing.
Yeah, I gave him one of
Barajas.
those.
There
He's
it
got
is.
one
That's
right
the
there.
JB,
It says
Just
it.
Boxing.
Just boxing. So how did it come to be that some people would recognize you as just business?
Because just being in the gym, people would be like, "Hey, why are you so serious?" And I'll be like, "Listen, man, this is business. I'm not here to laugh around." And
Yeah.
you know, that's how they got it. You know, because I'll just be in the gym, and this is business. This is serious. It's nothing to sit around and laugh jokes. And no, I'm here to work. I'm here for serious business.
You got
That's a
another
good story though.
You got another stablemate, right? That's one. Was it one or two losses? Was it Alexander Flores?
Yes, Alexander Flores, heavyweight.
Yeah, and he's just coming off. You actually went to New Zealand and fought Joseph Parker, right?
Correct.
Real controversial
Oh,
loss
yeah,
over there.
man.
It was
Big
bad.
time.
I think I was talking to you a little bit about it. About his sparring partner Alexander Flores went to fight Joseph Parker, and he had got hit with several low blows. Had get hit with maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, you were telling me about it.
The
I
fifth-
actually didn't watch that
the
one.
fifth one, he came right up and grabbed his nuts, went down. Parker came over the top with an overhand right, knocked him out. You know, and it's the one where I was telling you that the referee.
Your motions or what are making me. I don't
Man,
think that
shit.
that story is funny. It's Stacks doing the motion of like he came right up and like got underneath there,
got right. in
grabbed
his-
it. You know, like,
Yeah. So anyways, the referee that was in that fight was all over Facebook. Like, yeah, Parker deserved that win, and I'm glad Parker won. And even before the fight, I can't wait to referee my friend Joseph Parker's fight. This has always been a dream of mine. Like,
this is what I'm talking about.
How do you do that
Remember
shit, man?
when I was saying personal biases, like that guy probably thinks that that's fine, right? Like he probably thinks that's cool. Like like, oh, I really like him. I'm gonna really enjoy refereeing him. He probably thinks it's cool, but it brings so much personal bias into it. You really need to remove yourself from that situation as a responsible official,
yeah,
right? Like you can't go in there and feel that way about someone and then also decide that you're going to referee or judge, because no matter how hard you try, you can't remove that piece of you. You can't just go, you know what, right now I'm not going to support this guy. You know, like you can't do it. And I think sometimes people just have their favorites, man. They let it bias their officiating. They let it bias their judging. You know, you'll hear all the time this statement from, you know, whether it's Sergio Mora or whoever the ringside people are who are calling the fight. They'll say it depends on what the judge is like. Like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's not supposed to be like, oh, yeah, I like this guy, so I'm just going to go. There's like a set of scoring criteria that are supposed to eliminate bias in judging.
We're gonna have to either get Jack Reese on here or Ray Corona, and that way he can explain that what judges like. I know Ray's an actual. I don't think I've seen him judge. He may have judged a few fights. He's a referee, but a lot of these refs, they score and they ref. If they're not working in the ring, sometimes they're judging. So we're gonna have to get to find out what the hell the criteria is, because, like you said, what is it that they're looking for? Is it like an amateur fight? Is it just each time you get hit, score a point? I mean,
you don't know what the criteria is for boxing. How is it that you tell me who you think wins fights all the time?
I'm telling you, like, the official criteria.
Ring generalship, effective aggression, defense with an emphasis on clean and effective punching.
Okay. And again, but we've had this argument before.
What argument?
About getting hit, clean, effective. What is clean, effective?
Yeah, well,
what is hurting somebody?
Here's what my point is with that argument. My point has always been this. At the end of the day, sure, they have to have it's an organization that has to have some criteria to explain who is winning a round.
Yeah.
But the truth is that no person sitting in this room really needs a set of criteria to determine who wins a fight.
Exactly.
If two men just come here, right, and they're here right now, and they fight for 3 minutes, sometimes we'll look at it and we'll say, "Wow, that was tough. Both those guys did it." You know what I mean? That was a tough fight. And other times we'll just look at it and we'll go, "Yeah, that guy kicked his ass."
Yeah.
That's what we'll do, and that's the gist of it on a round-by-round basis. So it's not across the whole fight, but each individual round is treated like a 3-minute fight. And you just look at it, and if they were two dudes in a schoolyard going at it for 3 minutes and then it was broken up, we would all have an opinion on who's doing it. And it's not really based on, we don't look at it and go, "Oh, ring generalship, and but this guy's defense was really good." It doesn't really matter how good his defense was. It matters who is getting beat more than the other person. And that's what inherently inside you, that's what you will look at. Now, what the problem is today, particularly in the amateurs, but even at the professional level, the problem is you get two individuals and they're in a very close and competitive, combat, whatever you want to call it, right? And people feel like they have to pick one. They feel like they have to, like 10 rounds. The idea of saying these two people are even in that round is like frowned upon. It's not even allowed as an amateur. Like as an amateur, you have to pick one of those two people. You can't look at it and go, "That was pretty even," right?
You're right.
And I think that's bad for boxing. It's bad that people feel like they have to pick someone when it's not clear, because all the time you look at rounds and you go, "Shit, that was hard. That was a hard round to judge." But my feeling is I shouldn't have to pick someone if it was really that difficult to tell, right? If you're looking, I shouldn't go, "Oh, well, who was like, let me just nitpick some of these other things," right? I couldn't tell naturally who won that 1 3-minute fight. So I'm just going to say whose defense was better. Or who was moving forward? That's the one that you get all the. But he was moving forward.
Who was coming out? He was the aggressor.
He was being aggressive. So even though it was pretty evenly matched in terms of a fight, I'm going to go this way. Like, why do we have to lean one way if it's really not clear? So and what happens is this is where bias gets introduced, because when someone says it depends on what the judge is like. That's that statement. Depends on what the judge is like. You may have one guy who likes people that move forward.
Yeah.
Right? And so what he does is all of a sudden in a competitive fight, every round he goes, "I'm going to give it to that guy for walking," essentially. The guy who walks straight, that guy gets a round because that's what I prefer as a judge. And at the end of the fight, you have a lopsided scorecard because he gave every round to the same guy. Yet every person who was watching it without going through that criteria just sits there and goes, "Wow, that was really a super close fight." Right? That should have been like almost a draw or maybe a 1-point decision, but somehow this guy got 10 rounds, 9 rounds. Because they introduced a personal bias where they weren't sure who was winning rounds, and so they picked someone based off of something they liked. Yeah. And that's not the way it's supposed to work, man.
And the other
it's
thing
easy. It's easy. Like you just look at it and you say, "Who won?"
It's not easy. Yeah. It's not easy.
It should be.
It's not.
It should be, though.
It's not.
That's what I'm saying.
Same thing, though. Me and you get in the ring right now, right? We go back here. We jump in this ring, and you're sticking me. You know that I can't catch you. You're sticking me. And then finally I cut off the ring a minute into a 3-minute round. I hit you twice.
This is my argument.
Stumble you, right?
This is my argument.
Right? I know it's your argument.
This is my own argument against me.
But you should win, right? You should win that round, right?
Yes.
Why? Because you kept hitting me. You weren't hurting me, though. But you kept hitting me, but then I hurt you.
Wait, who? I forgot which guy I was in this scenario.
You're the guy. You're the guy popping me. So you hit me.
Oh no. So
you shouldn't win.
No, this is my exact argument.
Exactly.
So let's take all judging criteria out of it. So there's these two gentlemen right here. You guys are fighting each other, right? For 2.5 minutes. Not much happens, let's say. 2.5 minutes, not much happens. One guy, he's landing some jabs here and there, but both guys are... And so for 2.5 minutes, you're just popping a jab out there, controlling range, doing motion. Now, at the end of that 2.5 minutes, in the last 30 seconds, he hits you with the 2-punch combination. The eye's all cut up. Your nose is broken, right? And then the bell rings. The guys come, or not the bell because it's not a fight situation, but the authorities come and they separate you. Every single person who watched that fight will tell you that guy who broke his nose and split his eye open, that guy won that fight. Every single person will tell you that. Nobody's going to go, yeah, but you know what? That other dude was he was sitting out there, right? He was popping the jab.
You say nobody.
Nobody would do that.
You say nobody?
No,
but saying, there's judges that do it.
No, but these are boxing judges who are using an infrastructure. They're using criteria as the basis of making their decisions. What I'm saying is if we were just out in the yard and these two guys just were going down right now, that's how we would see it. We would look at it and go, that guy who just landed the 2-punch combination at the end, kicked that guy's ass. That's what we say. Oh man, he kicked his ass. You see what happened to his eye? You see how his nose got all broke up? That's what
I'm saying though. I mean, that's where
somebody jump on this chat and tell me that's not what would happen.
That's where it goes to what the judges like, man. I mean, yeah, you can say it, but come on, man. I mean,
yeah. I mean, well,
what do you do, man? What do you
I like the guy who clearly won. That's the guy I like.
What if I like the guy that sat there and hit this guy 42 goddamn times in the round? Whether he hurt him or not, he stuck it out there and he popped him.
Do you want to be the one with the broken nose who has to go get stitches over the top of his eye, or the guy who caught a couple jabs for the rest of the round?
More than likely, but
you want to be that guy who took some jabs, dude. You don't want to be going to the hospital, getting stuff pumped into here, getting stitches, your nose broke for the next couple of weeks. Like, it's easy. Just which one of those guys would you rather have been? I'll be the guy who took a couple jabs. You know what I mean?
See,
I'll be the guy who took a couple jabs, and so now there is one situation that I think is especially tricky for judges. Especially tricky, right? Which is there's this concept of work rate versus efficiency. So you have one person who is just pouring on punches for an entire fight.
Nico Macias,
right? So just pouring on punches. And then you have another individual who in that same round lands a lot of really clean, good-looking punches. So you're like, oh, man, that guy landed like 5-8 good-looking punches, but the other guy was just landing on everything, the elbows, the arms, doing whatever. That is a very difficult situation to judge, and I can understand that because as someone who is not in the ring, I don't know if 10 of my punches is worth one of yours or not. Right? Like, I can't say that, hey, man, I hit you a little bit on the body. I was touching you constantly. The whole round, I threw 100 punches, and I was constantly touching you, but you landed 5. I don't know that 10 of mine is worth 5 of your, or whatever the case is, right? And that's what makes certain fights difficult to judge. So I think when you watch fights like, let's say Mayweather versus Marcos Maidana, this is an example of work rate versus efficiency, and it's hard because you look at it and you're like, man, he's like landing all over the place, but at the same time, everything Mayweather lands looks clean, super clean, boom, right there on target, right? Or even last night, the Katie Taylor fight, it was work rate versus efficiency. You look at it and you go, man, every time Katie Taylor lands a combination, it looks good. It lands on the body, it lands on the head. But at the same time, this woman never stops throwing punches or coming forward, and it makes it difficult for people to judge fight. So I agree that it is hard. There are certain situations where it's hard. It would be easier if in those situations you could look at it and just go, I don't know who won that round.
10-10.
I don't know. 10-10. I don't know who won that round.
And they don't do that. And they don't do it enough. And the judges don't do that enough. They don't give those 10-10 rounds enough.
That's what would make it easier. I don't know who won that round. All right. I'll go down the line. Where am I wrong? Go for it. I want to know, man.
Wrong with what?
Well, I catch a lot of heat for saying that every time we're on this show and we talk about judging, you guys are always giving it to me. And I still don't understand why. So I'm curious, as someone who is part of the boxing media and as a fighter, where would your opinion differ from what I said? See, you can't do it. You tapped out. You're done.
I'm done.
Tapped out.
I don't even want to argue it. I'm wasting my goddamn breath with you. I'm telling you, man.
Tapped out. What do you think?
Especially you, because you're a jabber. You're somebody that's going to keep these guys away from you. So no, let me finish. Don't interrupt me. So he's out there and he's jabbing this guy. Pops him. You pop him all damn fight. And he cuts off the ring and cuts you. Do you lose that round?
Of course not. That's what you feel.
Thank you.
No, of course. Yeah, but look, here's the thing. See, because you you make it sound like every time we have this debate, like I think jabs can't win rounds, and that's not true.
And I'm telling you,
a jabber could easily win a round. Homeboy could just sit there and pop a jab all day long and just jab your ass off and never catch anything.
Just because somebody gets hurt in a round doesn't mean they lose that damn round if they were getting outworked, man. If they're getting hit, they're getting outboxed.
No, but it does in the real world, though. That's what I mean. Like, it's easy. Like it does if it's just two guys sitting here and one guy gets hurt and the other guy doesn't, it's really not a hard call.
And again,
it's not a hard call. You go, damn.
In the real, of course, but we're not talking about the real world. We're talking about scoring. We're not talking about.
But that's the problem. That's the problem with scoring.
Law enforcement coming and breaking shit up and people getting arrested and street fighting.
This is the problem with scoring.
Because honestly, if these two guys were fighting right here, they'd probably be wrestling around on the goddamn ground.
But this is the problem with scoring. This is why I'm saying, like, yeah, that's an issue with scoring. That's people introducing bias into it, and they're using a structure that isn't really necessary for judging.
Then why don't you call up the commission? Why don't you call up Bob Bennett? I'll give you his number.
I did. I called him, dude,
and he don't call back.
No, man, he stiffed me.
See?
I'm just kidding. I never called.
Look at Adelaide Bird. What did she like about Canelo that made Canelo win 118 to 112 in that round? What did she
probably
see?
Because he was moving forward. Right, so you're right. Mayweather is going.
No, I'm talking about Canelo Triple G.
Oh, Canelo Triple G, I was thinking of the other draw. Yeah. What did she see in that?
Or did she see through those glasses?
I don't know. I thought Triple G won like 8 rounds. I don't know.
Exactly.
I thought he won the first fight by like 8 rounds to 4. I don't know what she saw. But the point is if it's easy. That's just
it's not easy.
Look,
stop saying it's easy, bro. If it was easy, you would do it.
You're right.
You would be a judge if it was so damn easy.
I am. I'm a judge every time I watch a fight. I sit there and I tell you who I think won every single time. Every single time I tell you who I think won. So are all of us. That's the point. All of us do it.
That's true.
You know. I think I'm just gonna take the win. I think
you're taking the
I'm just gonna take the W this time.
All right.
Take the W. We're good.
Because I'm fat and out of breath.
I was going to make a bad joke, but I won't. Oh, man. You know what? You know why? Because
Andy Ruiz won and he's fat?
Yes. But you know what bothers me is, like, even though he won and he has this remarkable accomplishment, you go on social media today and people are still, like, making memes out of him and doing all kinds of, like, dude, just let you guys were hating on him when you thought he couldn't win. Now he wins. You're still hating on him, making Pillsbury Doughboy memes and stuff like that. Like, chill out, bro. He just won the heavyweight title.
The little up guy with all the belts now?
All kinds of stuff, like looking like that comedian. They're, like, posting pictures of the comedian and like, you know, or that, you know, the Stephen A. Smith thing was ridiculous. Oh my God! Yeah, see, I'm not even gonna show that. That's why somebody got to do that. Why somebody got to rain on his parade like that?
Because they're haters.
That was like the clip where you guys ever see the original Ghostbusters? It was like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and then they put Anthony Joshua down here. You know what I mean? They're just hating.
Oh
man, he couldn't catch a break before he won, and then he wins, and everybody makes all these memes and
then
stuff.
Somebody was saying, like, earlier, I had to jump on a thread where they're like, the win belongs to the USA because Andy Ruiz is from the United States and he wasn't born in Mexico and his mom's white. I was like, yeah, okay.
He fought on the Mexican Olympic team. How much more, like, do you need to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah. I posted a clip of his mom talking, like, in an interview last night, and the whole thing's in Spanish. I'm like, yeah, she's, like, really white.
Well, I heard a lot of people say that too. I just think it's silly because, like, dude, he fought on the Olympic team for Mexico. Like, chill out, bro. Like,
I can understand.
Like,
we were talking. Cynthia was asking me about it because she was a little confused, right? And I'm like, okay, he's of Mexican descent. Yeah, here in the United States, we're Mexicans. He identifies himself as Mexican. Me, Mexican. Mexicans. We're all Mexicans right here in the States. But when it comes to boxing, like I told her, you're a Mexican boxer when you're a national of that country. If you're a Mexican national, you're a, quote, Mexican boxer. When they ask you who's an all-time Mexican great fighter, you're going to say Finito Lopez, you're going to say Salvador Sanchez, Chavez, whatever the Mexican list is for fighters born in Mexico. That's just the way they classify them. You're not going to say De La Hoya and Carbajal are great Mexican fighters. They're Mexican Americans. They'll be in a different class, right? I don't know why boxing does that. It separates them that way.
That's just let the unified heavyweight world champion identify with what he wants to.
That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is.
It's a win. It's a win.
He's still a
first Mexican heavyweight champion. Boom. It's like,
there you go. Exactly.
It's good. Yeah.
I get it.
Stop making memes. You know what I mean? Like, give the guy a day off. Give the guy a day off.
It's all good.
I know.
Hey, I'm happy for him, man. I'm happy for Andy. I'm happy for his team.
I think we all are, bro.
Yeah, it was. It's an inspirational story, man.
You know what?
I was so inspirational. Like, damn, like I look at Andy Ruiz and I almost look like him. I'm kind of chunky like him with my shirt off even, and I'm like flexing in the mirror. I'm like, damn, that could have been me, but not really. But I'm not that strong or that fast, and I think Joshua would just like flick me and my ass would be out.
Oh my goodness, I won't even comment on that. But I agree with you in the sense that the thing that makes it great is the story.
Yeah,
right. Like you didn't have to be a fan of Andy Ruiz going into this to now truly appreciate that he is the unified world heavyweight champion, because it's a great story. It's like a movie. You know, you watch it and you're like, that doesn't happen. People don't just get like to be a sub and then win, except for, you know, Rocky. They were even making jokes about it on DAZN. They were like, oh, look, he really does look like Apollo Creed.
Yeah, they did.
You know, they were making all that joke, but then then it happened.
Yeah.
Fuck Creed up.
I know.
So, exactly. All right, man.
All right. So, before we jump off, though, I do want to give you guys an opportunity to plug anything you want to plug. If there's an Instagram, we should follow a Facebook page. I know we already mentioned the gym, but if you want to mention the gym, right there, we can do all that.
Yeah, shout out to Elite Boxing, Victorville. Follow me on social media, at official Juan Barajas on Instagram.
Stacks?
First off, make sure
That's
you guys.
the start of my favorite Tupac song.
There we go. Make sure you guys, if you're in Southern California, hit up that WBC show. The WBC show will be the 13th, the 14th, and 15th of June. Lots of activities going on. It's an amateur show. There'll be booths out there. There'll be food out there. A bunch of pro fighters will be out there signing autographs, taking pictures. It's free. It's completely free, so don't feel that you're going to have to pay money to get in, and then you're going to have to pay for autographs. You're going to have to pay for this or pay for that. Just pay for the gas to get your ass down there. That's it. That's all you got to pay for. Also, we need you to follow the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame. Big show coming up in August. You can get your tickets at nvbhof.com, the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame.com. Follow them on IG, on social media. We're giving away a Jesse Vargas autographed glove right now. All you got to do is tag 5 of your friends and hashtag Jesse Vargas giveaway. It's in the IG for a chance to win an autographed Jesse Vargas glove. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Beat the Count or Supreme Boxing.
Cool. Of course, as always, thank you. I'm your gracious host. I appreciate all of you being here. You can follow me on Instagram at Beat the Count. You can follow me on Facebook at Beat the Count. I don't have a Twitter because I haven't figured that one out yet.
It's easy, fool.
Just like judging. Jinx. That's all I got for you guys.
Peace.